father, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then opening their treasure chest, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And after being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Matthew 7:12, the golden rule. In everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law of the prophets. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. I realized I might not have introduced myself. And I said, good morning, I'm Heather McCartney Duty, a resident of Choteau, and I come from a long line of circuit preachers. So buckle in, people, here we go. Being a first grade teacher, I first have to begin with a story. It's called The Stone, a Persian legend of the Magi. In the year 2071, 17-year-old Marco Polo boarded his father's galley and sailed out of the lagoons of Venice into the open sea. It was the start of a journey that took him across the Mediterranean, through Arabia and Persia, over the Great Salt Desert, across the highest mountains in the world, onto China, and the magnificent court of the Kublai Khan, ruler of the mighty Mongol Empire. On his way, Marco Polo stopped in Jerusalem at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where he was shown a lamp that had burned continuously for over 1,200 years. Marco Polo took some of the oil from that lamp as a gift for the Kublai Khan. When he passed through the town of Sèvres in Persia, he came across 3 strange, ornate tombs with domed roofs. The people of Sèvres told Marco Polo that the names of the 3 men buried in the tombs were Balthazar, Melchior, and Jasper, and this is the story they went on to relate. Across the wind-swept plains of Persia in the ancient town of Sèvres stood a tower encrusted with turquoise tiles and filled with strange instruments, mysterious charts and glowing flasks of potions. Each starry night, 3 men climbed to the top of the tower to explore the heavens through narrow stargazing tubes. Then they bent over their charts, plotted the positions of the stars they had seen. The people of Sèvres believed the stargazers were magicians, but Jasper and Melchior and Balthazar were more than that. They were also healers and holy men. One evening, as the sky darkened, a star like no other appeared in the west. It filled the sky with brilliant trails of fiery light. "A new planet! We've just discovered a new planet!" shouted Jasper as he caught the dazzling movement in his stargazing tube. "Oh, no, Melchior pointed upwards. "Look at the trails. It can only be a comet." Balthazar shook his head and measured its place in the heavens. It's a mystery. We must consult our charts and scrolls." They spent days searching feverishly through the scrolls and rolls of scribblings, and at last they came across a strange legend telling of a baby whose birth would be announced by a star. The baby was a king who would bring justice and healing and peace to the world. "We must find the child and honor him," said Balthazar. "Let's take him a gift of gold," said Jasper. "If he's a king, he will gladly accept the gold." "Well, if he's a healer," said Melchior, "he will be pleased with ointment of myrrh." Balthazar shook his head. "We must give him a gift of holy incense. If he accepts incense, then he is truly a holy man and will bring peace." So they set off across the desert, following the route of the merchants to find the child. Each man carried a gift carefully wrapped in his saddlebag. During the day, when the scorching winds sent dust devils whirling into the air, they rested in the shadow of their tent, eating dates and drinking dark, bitter herb tea. By night, they journeyed under a sky that tossed out its milky pattern of stars, like a flying carpet, and all while the brilliant star shimmered and swept across the heavens just ahead of them. At last, the stars stood still, and beneath it they saw a simple shelter. Jasper wanted to be the first to present his gift, and he jumped down from his camel and rushed into the shelter. But when he saw who was inside, he forgot about his gift and ran out, wide-eyed with excitement. "He's not a child, he's a young man like me." "Well, that cannot be," said Melchior, and pushing past him, entered the shelter, but he too came out quickly. "Well, how strange. He's middle-aged like me." And last of all, it was Balthazar's turn. But when he came out, he shook his head. You are both wrong. He is old like me." "Well, he can't be young, middle-aged, and old," said Jasper. "How can he seem different to each one of us?" said Melchior. "It's a mystery. Let's go in and offer our gifts together," said Balthazar. So Jasper, Melchior, and Balthazar went into the shelter together, and they found they had all been wrong. There before them was a young child with his mother. For a moment they stood in silence. Then they knelt down and laid their gifts in front of him. The young boy smiled and accepted all three. Then he held out a small sealed box. "This is my gift," he said. And Jasper stepped forward and clasped it tightly against his chest. In silence they climbed onto their camels and journeyed back to Seville. But Jasper felt the weight of the unopened gift in his saddlebag. He grew impatient, and finally he cried, "Let's open it! Let me break the seal!" But Balthazar shook his head. "Be patient. Wait until we reach the tower." At long last they came to a well where there were merchants from the far corners of the earth had gathered to water their camels. The camels were loaded with spices and silks and dark-dyed indigo cloth, cornelians and rubies the color of pomegranate seeds, glowing amber, brilliant blue beads of lapis lazuli, and rich tapestries. Yet all Jasper and Melchior and Balthazar carried was the small sealed box that Jasper clutched. "Well, what is in your box?" one of the merchants asked. "It's a gift," said Jasper proudly. "Well, what kind of gift?" asked the merchant. Jasper held the box to his ear and shook it gently. "I don't know." "Well, why don't you have a look?" said the merchant. "Perhaps it's gold." Jasper's fingers rubbed at the seal. "Yes," he said, "yes, I will open it." And before Balthazar or Melchior could stop him, he broke the wax and lifted the lid. "A stone," he cried. "It's only a stone." "Is that all?" said the merchant, and he spat a trail of date pips into the sand in disgust. Melchior turned to Balthazar. "Why did he give us a stone?" he asked. "It must mean something." "Well, the stone holds a mystery," answered Balthazar. "It's a useless stone," Jasper cried. "Why, we can't even trade with it." And jumping up, he flung it down into the well. Melchior watched it fall. "But why did he take our gifts and give us only a stone in return?" "Ah, now I see," said Balthazar. What do you see?" asked Jasper, peering down into the darkness of the well. Balthazar's eyes shone. "The child accepted all three of our gifts. He must be all three things." "What three things?" demanded Jasper. Jasper is very demanding and bossy. "The true king, the true healer, and the true holy one." As Balthazar spoke, flames of fire suddenly shot from the well, and a great blaze of light filled the sky. The merchants came running out from the shadows of their tents. "What is happening?" they asked, shielding their eyes from the brilliance. "It is our gift from the child," Balthazar announced, "a gift that will bring justice and healing and peace to the world. Our belief in this must be as strong as the stone and burn in us like fire." Wide-eyed, the merchants stared into the brightness. "Come," cried Balthazar, "come and share this. The gift is for everyone." So one by one, the merchants came forward and held their lamps high to be lit by the fiery light. Then each person carried the flame away, back to all the faraway places of the earth, for all of mankind to share. I had long thought that the story of the Magi belonged uniquely to my Western Christian custom. What with all the songs and parodies about it, I was pleasantly surprised to learn it is recorded in different traditions and with different meanings. For some, it is a traditional day of gift-giving and feasting in honor of the Magi who brought gifts. In Ireland, it's a day of complete rest for women after a long Christmas season of hosting. In Mexico, children leave their shoes by the door, expecting them to be filled with treats on the morning of Epiphany. Europeans chalk their doors, and Eastern churches have blessings of water, while still others leave out water and grass in honor of the burden-bearing camels, or eat king's cake, hoping that the infant figurine is in their slice. In Syria, a bonfire is built around which an image of Christ is carried. For most Christians, it is the affirmation that Yeshua was the anointed Messiah, not just because Mary had visitations, Joseph had dreams, Elizabeth had a kicking baby, or lanolin-drenched shepherds came rushing in at the most inopportune time into the manger. It was that foreigners, non-affiliated, not like us, that took a great journey to present some specific gifts that gave us the right to say, "See, he's the one." Stephen Hultgren, in his commentary on The Working Preacher, writes, "The story in Matthew can be divided into 5 scenes: the arrival of the Magi, Herod's alarm and consultation of the priests and scribes, Herod's request of the Magi's visit and adoration of the Christ child, and the departure of the Magi. The first, third, and fourth scenes are punctuated by the verb worship or pay homage, which highlights a main feature of the narrative. The Magi take the role of the Gentiles who will come paying homage and bringing gifts to the Messiah, according to the Psalms. The sincerity of the Magi's worship of Jesus is contrasted with Herod's insincere pledge to worship Jesus. The Magi, who are said to come from the east, give the story an exotic flavor. Ancient Magi were persons reputed to be adept at astronomy as well as various occult arts, such as astrology, interpretation of dreams, future telling, and magic. Here they are clearly thought of as astronomers or astrologers who have found the rising of a star to be a world historical significance. It was a common idea in antiquity that the birth or death of great men was accompanied by heavenly signs. But there is more than meets the eye in the identification of these Magi as from the east. The word for east in the story, Anatoli or Anatoli, really means the rising, that is, the rising of the sun. Our word Orient comes from the same Latin word with the same meaning, Oriens. The word Anatoli would have had a number of resonances for the first Greek-speaking Jewish Christian hearers of Matthew's story. First, the rising of the sun in the east readily suggests the imagery of light, which is often associated with the salvation in the Bible. The Old Testament reading in Isaiah, to which the Magi story clearly alludes, begins with the words, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." The verb "has risen" here in the Septuagint translation is anteatalken, from the same root as Anatoli. Isaiah's vision of salvation includes a pilgrimage of the nations who will come to Israel's light to worship the God of Israel. The Gentile Magi are to be understood as enacting the fulfillment of this prophecy. These interpretations and gift symbols are seen through our contemporary eyes and come to us across centuries of oral traditions blended with ancient manuscripts connecting even older myths. We are not from a time when people lived close to the elements. The ancient ones knew how to utilize plants around them and detect hidden water in the desert. They knew when to plant and when to give offerings to whatever they acclaimed as having provided for them that year. Living in such vulnerable times had them sensitized and at times afraid of the powers that revealed themselves. They needed something to relieve their fears. Sacred people then, as the Magi are ascribed to be, were set apart in life's work to give meaning to whatever it was people experienced, whether that was sickness, wealth, disaster, or a celestial event. They kept totems and potions, were philosophers and scientists, and the record keepers of their people through time. So, if they had their own people to tend after, why did they come to us and enter our history? Was there actually a star, or was this some superlative narrative crafting by St. Matthew et al. In an attempt to get on the New York Times bestsellers list? Well, modern science research has deduced to reveal that rather than a star, indeed, other heavenly bodies were most likely responsible. They have hypothesized that it probably was a planetary conjunction that, similar to in 2020 when Saturn and Jupiter aligned, creating a Christmas star, also created a great, bright light in the night skies. And it probably did seem to stand still, as retrograde effect has a fabulous optical illusion when planets pass through each other's orbits. It got everyone's attention, even Herod's mystics, which would have had him more paranoid than usual. And Pastor Alyssa can give us a synopsis of Roman political scene another time. Whatever the reasons and however solid the tale, I think we get lost in characters and ascribing kingly traits to their arrival. Epiphany means manifestation or appearance, a modern-day eureka. For all of my life, this moment in church time has simply been to prove, look, this is the one and only, enough said. But for me, however, that is too narrow of a view of history and the story. Yes, it gives a connection between old prophecies and new events. And for this particular Jewish family, a passel of shepherds, a jealous Roman ruler, and a couple of foreigners, it means a change of power has arrived. It is one thing to know a new thing. It's an entirely other thing to act on it. New information, to act on it. Think back through history until Epiphany, when everyone is in motion. Mary acted with acceptance, Joseph acted with obedience, Elizabeth responded with joy, her husband already silenced for his unbelief. The shepherds acted with a breathless haste, although rituals and Jewish law probably would have had something to say about their arrival so close to the birth event. And the Magi jumped on a caravan hundreds of miles away, loaded with provisions, and showed up probably several years later. Others acted against or denied the revelation. Herod conspired and murdered. The religious authorities and closest friends of the one revealed would reject the notion altogether. King of the Jews indeed. They are still watching for Yeshua from the house of David. This being the new year, many of us have undoubtedly made resolutions to adopt things that will help us feel like better humans. We take a walk, call a friend, visit a shut-in, or take a few minutes to collect ourselves with deep breaths on a Monday morning before engaging with first graders who are hopped up on holiday sugar and sleep deprivation. We spend more time in our studies. Perhaps we do a few more stretches. Or we don't. New information can be threatening, intimidating, downright something we'd like to chase right on out of our two-horse town. Never mind who sent it, we want the messenger shot. To me, the story of the Magi is not only did they have a revelation, they checked their sources, made provisions to travel, and then brought gifts for their hosts. And what of those gifts? I mean, if the scene were something from a Monty Python sketch, it might run something like this. Mary looking at Joe saying, the gold is fabulous and the frankincense is useful, but embalming fluid? I did not see that coming. Given the dangers of travel in those days, such as bandits, storms, and illness, it's a wonder that anyone would do anything in response to a bright light, a few star charts, and an old prophecy. In my modern life, if my internet speed is 5 microseconds slow, my day is ruined. Who has time for a grand universal revelation? I'll raise my hand to say, I'm the first to deny that I've known new information that should prompt a change in my life. Maybe I have talked to a doctor, read an article, been alerted by my spouse, or texted by my sister. I knew it, ignored it, or made it look like the information belonged probably to somebody else. It was for them. Anything to just get the responsibility of responding off my shoulders and out the door. The story of the Magi for today is that not only should we be looking for a new revelation in our lives, but acting on those revelations as if they were sent on a mission to save our lives. Matthew tells us that not long ago, just such a message was sent. And because most of those nearby were reluctant to respond, he had to send in help from outsiders to be sure the message was heard. Today, where do we know that we've had revelation in our lives? Conversely, where do we wait for revelation? Most importantly, are we prepared to move with intention upon what we learn when we learn it? And all God's people said, whew, she's done.